morning, afternoon and evening, my crazies. My name's Angela. I'm the Crazy Poppy Lady, and I'd like to welcome you to this month's crochet along, and it is for this cheeky guy here. This is Max the Koala. So this pattern, of course, is a corner to corner. Now I choose to do corner to corner so that all my left-handed and all my right-handed crazies, I can do it all at the same time. The only difference is what side you sew your ends in. So this section is the introduction. So for your introduction, you need to grab yourself a pen and a bit of paper, or follow the link that will be in the drop down description box, because this pattern is now live on my Ravelry page. That's right, pattern number 2, it's up, it's on, it's ready to go. So if you're being cheeky and you're gonna write the pattern down as you go, that is fine as well. Be warned, this brown section here, which is video number 2, is awkward, so you may have to listen to it 4, maybe 5 times to double, triple check that you have got the black and the brown in the right order, because it's a piglet of a video, but the rest of the set of videos are nice, easy, and not too much of fiddling around to get your koala sorted. Right, so let's get on with what yarn you need. So you can either go and raid your stash, or you can order it from a supplier. Now if you're in the UK and you haven't already come across this company, I actually am now purchasing all of my my yarns that I'm using in these blankets, which is the Signet Pato Everyday. Yeah, messy, I know. It's my leftovers. But my Signet Pato I get for £1.20 a ball, and I get that from the Secret Yarn Stash. Now there is an affiliated link in of course the drop down box down below. So Louisa does also have the Signet Little Ones DK, which are mini 25g balls, and they are 80p a pop. So if you don't want to have a big chunk of leftovers, they are a good idea as well. And if you use that, you're going to get yourself 10% off your first order, so that's pretty good for you. It doesn't cost you anything to use the link, it's just a cheeky way of getting you onto the site quicker, save you having to type out the name. But if you do place an order with them, I do get a little bit of a kickback, and I get points, and I use those points to buy the poppy red and the poppy black yarn up there. So you will actually be helping me raise money, and just by popping your order through there. That's if you like their prices. And remember, if you spend 30 quid there, I get 1 ball of poppy red, and that I can turn into 60 poppies, and those 60 poppies can turn into a minimum of 120 quid for the Royal British Legion. So bonus, a win-win, and hopefully we're all happy, because I've found somewhere that's got nice cheap yarn for you guys, and they're helping us out to support the poppy appeal. But let's go back to this cheeky guy here. Right, have you got your notepads? Fingers crossed you have. Right, so you are going to need, I will attempt to write it on the side of the screen here. I might end up blocking my head, so good luck. Right, so you are going to need 120 grams of white. Now these numbers are all in DK, okay? If you're going to be using a different size yarn, you are going to have to do the mental math yourself, okay? I've just got the math here on how much I have used, and I've also rounded it up so that you're not going to be playing yarn chicken like I thought I was doing at one point. Right, so back to it. We have got the white. It's 125 grams, so just purchase 2 balls of 100 grams. Makes it easier, because we all know there's going to be another project later on this channel that you may end up using that on. Or if not this channel, somewhere else. White's one of them colours, it's a go-to, isn't it? Right, then we have got black, which is 75 grams, 1 ball. And then you have brown. Now brown is a 25 gram. If you do use the Secret Yarn Stash, have a word with Louisa. She does little mini balls as well. Right, so you are going to need 25 grams of brown, 5 grams of green, 5 grams of pink, and 100 grams of grey. So remember, those green and pinks you may be able to find in your little stash bin, because sometimes it's not worth cracking open a new ball of yarn when you got a bit of leftovers left over. Right, so that is what you're going to need. Now on to the desktop table, where I'm going to show you what hook size you need and all the other bits and pieces and talk you through that, and then we can start the pattern. Have fun, everybody. Right, so let's get on with grabbing your supplies. First thing up you're going to need is a pair of scissors, followed by a 4.5mm hook if you are using a DK weight yarn. If you're going to be using a thicker yarn than that, please adjust your hook in accordance with what is written on the back of the packet. You're also going to need a decent amount of stitch markers. Now these are used primarily to mark off every 10 rows are working up one side, so that when you put your project down, because you're guaranteed to, you'll be able to pick it up and you'll have a clearer visual of what row you were on. Okay, so let's move those items out of the way. So now to unveil the colours. All right, so for your blanket you are going to need a white. For this blanket, of course, I'm using the So Crafty double knit yarn in that colourway because I've got far too many balls and I need to shift it. But it is just a slightly off white. Your blankets would look absolutely stunning with a really nice crisp white. Now, full amounts of yarn that I used will be placed just here. Right, so you have got the white, you have got a black, okay, and you will need a small amount of a very pastel pink. Okay, so for my pastel pink I have chosen to use the Signet Pato Everyday DK. Alright, this is machine washable at 40, which is why I've moved on to this one. It means that it can just be shoved in the washing machine. Okay, you can't tumble dry it, but needs must. And the shade I have picked is a 944, which is a nude pink. Okay, my next colour you are going to need. Now this is an option A colour, meaning that you can change this around. This is a border colour. Okay, that's right, I'm adding a border to this blanket. I haven't done one before for you, not on a corner to corner anyway. So this pattern has a built-in border, so if you choose to, you can exchange this shade of blue out for a different colour, because this blanket would work for both sexes of child, or you could go completely crazy and go rainbow border if you've got the right yarn. So as I said, you can swap this one out, but for my blanket I am using the colourway 991, which is Sax, and again it is by a Signet Pato Everyday DK. Right, you are also going to need a green. Pick a nice shade of green. This one's not quite showing up true to on the camera. Okay, again I've picked the Signet Pato Everyday DK, and this colourway is Apple, which is 988. Okay, then you will need a nice shade of brown. Okay, mine's showing up black, but honestly it's a really nice shade of brown, this one. And this is a chocolate, and it is a 979. And again it is by the Signet Pato Everyday DK. And why have I changed to this? Because I can get all the appropriate paperwork needed to get my CE certificates for the UK with this yarn, whereas I can't with the Aldi. Right, and the last colour up is a Signet Pato Everyday DK. Now this is a dark grey in shade 977. This
is the main body of your animal. Okay, so I'm giving you a couple of little clues here. We are making a grey animal. So what do you think is going to be using these main colours? Have a guess down below. And while you're thinking about it, grab your stock, grab everything else you need, because the pattern will be starting in a few moments. Just a quick side note, this is an ideal opportunity for you to use some of your smaller balls of yarn that are left over from other projects, especially with the pink. Okay, you aren't going to need a great deal of that. As you've seen, the information down the side will tell you how much I've used, and I always round up to the nearest 25 grams or 10 grams. Okay, so I'm always rounding up so that you're not going to have to play yarn chicken. So with this shade and the green, I believe they have got the least amount of use. Okay, so you can pull out these from your stash bin. Right, so let's get back going on the pattern. Now the pattern is going to be described to you in American terms. Okay, I'm sorry, I learnt in American terms over English terms, but I will tell you what the stitches are if I know them. Right, basically our stitches we are going to need today are a slip knot, a chain, a US double crochet, a UK treble crochet, and I believe that is it. Right, so let's get going with our slip knot. So pop a slip knot on your hook, do it however you like. Make sure you leave enough yarn to be able to sew in your ends at the end of the project. Right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to chain 5. Okay, so once you've got your chain 5, count 3 down from your hook, and into that third stitch you are going to place a US a double crochet, a UK treble crochet. And then we will be placing a double crochet into each of these 2 remaining chain stitches. Right, so once they are done, your block will consist of your starting chain running along the bottom, chain 2 running up the side, and then 3 double crochets. Okay, now for block 2, which is also the first block on row 2, we are going to chain up 5. Now we are going to tilt our work, and having the block that you've just made point downwards, you are going to work into the chain, starting at the third chain from your hook, and pop in a double crochet into that one, and then into chain number 4 you pop a double crochet, and chain number 5 also has a double crochet. And that is how you will be starting every row while we're doing the increases. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to flip our work 180 degrees. So that's that first square, flip it up and around, find your chain 2 hole, stick your hook through the whole thing and pull up a loop and finish off as a slip stitch. Okay, now that is your very first square on your second row done. Now we are going to chain up 2 and place 3 double crochets into the same spot. So that square there has now got 2 double crochets going up and then 3 double crochets worked around the chain 2. Now we're going to start row 3. So for this one, you're going to chain up 5, and then work your double crochet into your chain 3 from the hook. Then we're working our second double crochet into the next chain, and your final double crochet into the last chain. Now flip your work up 180 degrees and find the gap between the chain 2 and your first double crochet. Pop your hook through, pull up a loop and finish it off as a slip stitch. Now we're going to chain up 2, and now we are working on our next square. So each square, remember, has a chain 2 and 3 double crochets in around that chain 2 from the previous row. The only time it changes is for the first and last square. So now we're going to slip stitch into the top of the next square and chain up 2 and add our 3 double crochets. So there you go, and that is rows 1 through to 3 complete. Okay, so carry on that process, increasing on one side, okay, or should I say increasing on the first square of each row until you have 12 rows. Once you have the 12 rows, come back and see me and we will work on to a row 13. Right, so welcome back to the end of row 12. Now before we start row 13, it's a good idea to add a couple of stitch markers in so you know which way round your blanket is sitting, if you have to put it down and pick it up, which I'm sure we will do sometime during this project. Right, so the best way I have found to do this is at this point, lay your project out flat facing you. Your working yarn should be sitting down on the bottom. The yarn that you're going to need to sew in is also on the bottom. And then if you count up your blanket 10 squares and pop a stitch marker through one of the stitches in that 10th square, that will show you that's your 10th row. Okay, and just do it on one side. Okay, so we're doing it on the side that is going up your work. Remember, it doesn't matter whether you are left or right-handed, your pattern will still come out looking the same. Okay, it's all down to what side you flick your ends through to. Okay, so all you've got to do is remember to sew your ends in on one side of the work and not both. Other than that, it's pretty nice and pretty simple. Right, so let's get on with row 13. Right, so for row 13, what we're going to actually do is start off with 5 white blocks, okay? Once you've got your 5 white blocks done, come to me, just don't join that last 5th block, okay? But come back to me with your lump of white fabric and a ball of black, and I will see you shortly. Okay, so you're back with me. You have done your 5 squares but haven't joined that 5th square. That's quite important. So if you've done it, quickly undo and set yourself up so that you've got your 5 squares with your 5th one incomplete, as in not slip stitched. Right, now we are going to add our black in. For this I like to add another slip stitch. Some people don't like working with slip stitches. You don't have to. You can do it your way. But the best way I have found to add a colour is to actually add it on the slip stitch. So what I do is I will pop my hook through the work, then I add the black, but I also grab the yarn that I've been working with and I lay that over the top of my hook before I pull it through. So then pull in your second colour through and finishing up as a slip stitch as you would have done with all of the other blocks. Okay, just like that, and then give it a gentle tug so it's nice and tight, that one. And then taking the old yarn that you was working with, do that, pushing that over to one side. I like to actually hold that with my little finger for a few moments. And now we are going to work the black. As I have mentioned previously, with my black, it is a bit thinner than my other yarns. Now this is quite normal, I've noticed, for Aldi yarn and for Stylecraft as well, which is a bit of a shame. So if you come across this issue, here is the quick trick to rectify it. So you just got to remember to do this for each of your black squares and none of the rest of them. So what we're going to do is we are going to place a 1 double crochet around that chain, and then our second stitch we are going to do a double crochet but only go halfway, so you pull through the first 2 loops. Then you're going to hook over again and go back through, pull up your yarn, hook over and pull through 2. That leaves 3 loops on your hook. Now we're just going to pull over and pull through all 3, so that still counts up the top as 2 double crochets, but it's filled in a bit of the gap. Okay, and then we're going to finish off with another double crochet, and that is it. That is how we extend the black to make it fit the rest of the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that quickly up to the chain point and show you it all again. If you don't need it, just skip it. Okay, so here we go. It's a double crochet in, followed by hook over, go through, pull up your yarn, hook over, go through 2 and stop, hook over, go through, hook over, pull up your yarn, hook over, pull through 2 and stop, 3 on your hook, hook over, pull through all 3. Next stitch, another double crochet. Right, so and now we are going to need another white, because the white that we have attached to our work will be working down the bottom section of our pattern. So now to just find my end. Right, so now we are going to do the same method again to join our next yarn on. Okay, so slip knot for me, pop your yarn, your hook through the yarn and pop your slip stitch on. Grab your black yarn, making sure it's tight on the loop is tight on your hook, and pull that over the top of your yarn that you're working. Now pull your loop through all of it, through the slip stitch and slip stitch to close. And there we go. And now we can give that black a little tug, move the black out the way. This is where your strands get a little bit messy. Oh, done it the wrong way. There we go. Okay, so we just pull that black out of the way, hold it out your way so it's not in the way. Now we're going to just chain up 2 and carry on our boxes all the way down the row. So you should now have 7 boxes to complete. I will meet you at the end of the row for the box count. So your box counts for row 13 are, working from the bottom to the top, 5 white, 1 black and 7 white. Right, so your block count for row 14 is, working from the top to the bottom, 7 white, 2 black and 5 white. Right, back with a little bit of information for you for this row, as it's the first time we are moving our yarn up and across and things like that. So for row 14 you're going to need to do 7 white. Now when you go to join it to your 8th block, you are going to be swapping to black. So to do this one, because we have already worked over it with the slip stitch on the last round, it's brought our yarn in place lovely. So all we're going to do is pop our hook through, okay, of our black to the back. We are then going to grab our white and lay that over the top of our hook like we've done previously. And now we are just going to pull up our black. When you do it, make sure that you pull it so that it is off to one side slightly, so that it is nice and loose and it's running the same length as your previous box. That way it stops the fabric from puckering up. Then of course we do our slip stitch and we move that white out of the way and we carry on our block as normal. Okay, now remember, with my black blocks I'm doing that cheeky little tip that I showed you on my last row, so I'm going to carry on now. Right, so now I'm just going to do my black block just quickly, and then I will show you again using the white how to pick up your white. Now remember, I'm having to do that little trick I showed you on the last row to ensure that my blocks are the same size because my yarn is thinner, she says through gritted teeth. Right, so we have got 2 blocks of black to do on this row. Right, so there we go, there's the end of that one. So now it's time to move up my white. Okay, give it a gentle tug before you start, which means then that it closes on the previous block. Right, so pop your hook through and lay your black over, okay, and then pull up your white, making sure that it's not too tight. Then we are going to finish off our slip stitch, make that bit tight, and then chain up 2 and carry on working your blocks all the way down the rest of this row. On row 15 we will be introducing our green. Another little tip. Now for this row we are going to be adding in the green, but we are also going to be moving the black up a square. Okay, so we are going to be working over this black the same time we are adding in the green square. It might sound a bit confusing if you've not done it before, but don't worry, it really isn't. So first of all, get your green ready, and now we are going to grab the black, give it a gentle tug so that the stitches are closed from the previous round. Okay, we are now going to pop our hook into the normal gap, laying over the white and the black. Oh, pop your green on the hook and pull that back through the stitch. Okay, and finish off your stitch with a slip knot, pulling that nice and tight. Okay, now we are going to move the white out of the way because we'll be using that on the next row. We are going to find that tail and get that out of the way. Okay, and now I'm working over our black. We are going to make our green block. Okay, now we only needed that one green block, so now we grab our black yarn, pop our hook through, okay, and lay over the green, and then pull up our black. Okay, do our slip stitch. Okay, move our green yarn out of the way, and then do our black block. Now it's time to pick up the white. So give it a gentle tug, move your yarn to the back and pop your hook through, work over your black and pick up your white. Give it a gentle tug and drop your black, and then carry on your white blocks until the end of the row. I'll give you your block count in a moment. Box count for row 15. For this one we are working from the bottom to the top. You are going to need to do 6 white, 1 green, 1 black and 7 white. Now a question I do get asked quite a bit is, Ange, how on earth do you stop your yarns from tangling up as you work? Now, as you've noticed on the last few rows, my yarns have been getting tangled, but what I actually do is, of course, I have to set up my shop between each row, so that is when I have an ideal opportunity to unravel them. But if I'm not videoing a blanket that I'm making, what I will do is every other row I rotate my work 360 degrees in the opposite direction, and then that normally means that my yarns will then all be in order. Okay, if they're not, then of course I will sit there and gently just move them about until they're sitting back on the table in the order that they need to be. So of course with every other row your yarn gets tangled, but as I said, if you flip it all the way around 360 degrees in the opposite direction, it will untangle them. Row count for row 16. For this one you are working down your work. You are going to need to do 7 white, 1 black, 1 green, add in a black and end with 6 white. Here is the box count for row 17. For this one you are working up your work. You will need to do 6 white, 1 black, 2 green, 1 black and 7 white. Okay, so here we are back for box count for row 18. For this one you are working down your work. Okay, you're going to need to do 8 white, bring up that black, 3 green, bring up the black and end up with 7 white. So I will say that again for you. That is 8 white, 3 green and 7 white, bringing up those blacks as you work past them. So here's the cheeky trick. What we're going to do is pull the black, giving it a gentle tug, pop your hook in, moving your white and your black off to one side. We are going to work our green through and then do our slip stitch over those 2 strands. Okay, then it's a case of tightening up the green and moving those out of the way to carry on going. This will then bring the black up to the next row along with the white. Now we may end up having to cut this off at a later point, but it's a good idea to do this all the way along so that you have a chance of picking it up onto the next row. And here we are for the box counts for row 19. For this one you are working up your work. You are going to need to do 7 white, 1 black, 2 green, 1 black and end on 8 white. Hello my crazies. Right, I've just realised earlier on in the project I got you to lay your work out and add your stitch markers in. I'd done it upside down, but don't worry, the box counts and everything were correct. It was just laying it out made it sit upside down. So what I'm going to do now is re-talk you through it, and then where to put your stitch markers so they're on the right side this time. Right, so you want to lay your work out with your working yarn or your last square on row 19. You want that at the bottom. Okay, that goes at the bottom. You have, of course, there's a tail end here, and we are going to be marking up the right hand side. So you want to do that onto a box 10. I'm just going to guess, I'll work it out off camera in a minute. But yeah, you want to work it box 10 before we move on, because otherwise you will have to do what I've done and strip back 3 rows when you realise it's upside down and round the wrong way. So again, apologies for that, everybody. I'll make a big warning thing come up at the beginning of this little subsection so that hopefully none of you get confused in later parts of the project. So remember, this little section is about swapping your stitch markers from this side to this side so that your pattern sits correctly. Right, so here we are back for the box count for row 20. Now remember, you've had to flip your work because I made a muck up. So now we are going up our work. You are going to need 3 white, add in a black and do 3 black, add in a white and do 3 white, bring up your black, do 3 green, bring up your black. Right, then it is a 1 white. Now you're going to add in a black. Now what I have actually chosen to do is work over my white for 3 squares whilst doing these 3 black, picking up the white and then carrying on and finishing off with 4 white. By doing it that way, I don't have an end to sew in here or an end to sew in here. Okay, so let me repeat that for you. Your box count, working from the bottom to the top now, is 3 white, 3 black, 3 white, 3 green, 1 white, 3 black, and 4 white. And as we are at the end of this video, oops, I really should talk about ends. Alright, so let me flip this over so you can see how many we have got here. Right, not too many actually for this time, for this project so far. Ignore that one. That is where I had to add in some yarn. Right, so what I suggest you do is only sew in these ones here at the bottom half of your work. Okay, these first 4. Leave the rest of them because if you sew them in too close to the edge of your work, sometimes it bunches up and it causes more havoc. So this way round, I always leave a minimum of 3 rows of ends, okay, to sew in at the end of the project. So as you're working up your work, keep that count of 3 rows moving with you, so you never sew in those 3 rows, but sew everything else below it. Right, I am going to head off now and sew in these ends. I'm actually going to do what I'm suggesting you do. Makes change for me, isn't it? Right, and as I said, I will see you all really, really soon. So at the end of row 20 and the end of this video, this is what your work should look like. Thank you very much for joining me today. I will see you all next week for the next part. Now, if you're coming to this a little bit later than others, check the little I button here. This will take you through to video number 2. So once again, I will see you all next week. Same bad time and same bat channel. Ta-ra for now, everybody.